staying aligned to the plan is not just keeping your goal in mind and tracking every single little KPI for that. Is also making sure that you're keeping up with the trends, that you're using the best technology to do that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. And we believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and growth starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. I'm your host, Brett Swartz. In every episode, we are joined by some of the world's top millionaires, billionaires, and entrepreneurs, where they share their wisdom, their gifts, their talents, their secrets with us, so we can all scale for more impact, to make a bigger difference in this world and also help MVPs. I'm excited about our next guest. He is one of the, or if the founder or growth manager at a place called the Icons of Real Estate. He's passionate globe trotter marketing expert. And he is on a mission to help us all compound and scale our businesses through the power of podcasting. And he's actually interviewed some of the world's top 1% in their niche, and he has an act for engaging and bringing out value perspectives to our audience, and then helping everyone to apply that to grow their business. That's what we're going to talk about today. Please welcome to the show with me, Tomas Fonseca. Thomas, how are we doing?
Doing good, Brett. Thank you for that amazing introduction. Happy to be here.
Yep, absolutely. And for listeners getting to know you for the first time, give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus.
Yeah, so I'm, as you said, a Portuguese globetrotter that found himself entangled with the American idea of entrepreneurism, which is very different from any other side of the world. So I'm blessed to have had that experience, that actually always have an ambition to grow, and with that, I was engaging with this company that is Ardor SEO, which was a real estate marketing agency that I used to work with. And kind of the Icons of Real Estate idea came ashore on building something that is actually not just a partner to the industry, but is actually a part of the industry. So instead of being on the side, we're actually starting being in the middle. And we've been building Icons of Real Estate for 4 years now. We are currently the #1 real estate podcast network. We produce around 70 podcasts around the US, and we're not stopping for the 70. We're going more, and more than that, we're distributing as well the idea and the magic that we have for our podcast framework, and that's what I would love to share with you today.
Awesome. Let's dive right into the topic at hand, which is basically podcasting for growth or scaling. So what is the *1 secret to doing just that?
So first of all is knowing where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, starting a podcast just because, it's not going to do you any good. So we have come through a few seasons of podcasting that is coming. Even the last one that we saw was in COVID, right? Like, I'm at home. What should I do? I'm going to start a podcast, right? So podcast can be a really great way for you to journaling, for you to talk with your friends, have some laughs, right? But I don't do any of those type of podcasts. Like, all the podcasts that I do are designed to grow a business. So like the first thing that you need to do before anything else is figure out what do you want, what are your goals, and only then you can place podcasting as part of those goals.
Okay, that makes sense to know where you're going, and then also the intent for what it is. Are you doing it for a journal, or are you doing it for growth of the company? Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much.
Okay. By the way, on that topic, when people are starting a podcast, it's like, do they do it in like the Joe Rogan, right? I know this is the extreme example because he's the best in the world, right? Like his name, the Joe Rogan Show, right? Versus like we have the show, the Build It to Billions, and we have the show, and we have the Capital Gains Tax Solutions show. We have 2 podcasts versus like the Brett Swartz Show, right? So obviously I'm not Joe Rogan, so I know it's not apples to apples, but is there ever a time when you're like, hey, build it not on a brand name, but make you personal brand the podcast?
So for that, I don't have much of a big fear for the big names and the big podcasts out there, because it's already a very competitive game, right? But most podcasts fail. It's just it, so just being where you are right now, Brett. Like, how many episodes are you on?
Well, with Capital Gains Tax Solutions, it's like 300. Build It to Billions, because we launched that. Maybe we can talk about that strategy too. We launched this one about 7 months ago, and I think we're probably like 50 to 60 at this point.
Yeah. So like any episode with more than 20 episodes is already on the top 1% of podcasts. So that alone it can already tell you a little bit something of not being too afraid of the big sharks. You just need to be better than the little fishes,
Yeah, makes sense.
About like highlighting your name. The podcast is about that. It's about positioning you as a leader, positioning you as top of mind. Brad, you have a podcast about capital gains and tax solutions. Like if I have an issue and I was like, oh, I'm doing my taxes. Oh, I actually supposed to do my taxes last week, right? Forgot to do my taxes. Wow, who am I going to call? I'm going to call Brett. And maybe sometimes it's just indoctrination that you build around you. That sometimes people don't even need to listen to the actual episode. Just the fact that they know you're the host of the Tax Solutions podcast, they already know you're the expert to call when that subject comes to shore. It's the same thing if you have a podcast about wood carving, about snowboarding, or about real estate. It's just going to if I had a podcast about snowboarding, you could probably put your hands on a fire and say like, oh, Tomas can probably snowboard really good. I don't. So I don't have a podcast about snowboarding. Right. So it is about you. Of course, you can have the idea, but more extensive to the idea, you are always going to be a part of it, a nuclear part of it, and you're going to be positioned as an expert. So your name should always be there.
Okay, so let me just steal that, right? So what you're saying is, it's Capital Gains Tax Solutions, show with Brett Swartz. It's Build It to Billions with Brett Swartz. What you're saying is, if you're building it for a business, that's really what we're focused on here. But by the way, I think 80% of people make buying decisions based upon a personal brand, right? Versus like the brand of a thing. So if I'm hearing you, you're saying, no, I think it's good to have Capital Gains Tax Solutions. That's what you want to be the authority for. Because if I'm searching in a podcast, I'm thinking capital gains tax, and I'm searching SEO, and I'm like, oh, capital gains tax, and solutions is a podcast on it. Oh, who runs it? Oh, Brett does. Okay, that's a great way to get the authority in that particular niche.
Yeah, exactly. And the SEO is going to find you either way. Even if you leave your name as the host name, the SEO will find you that way. So it's not even if you even on the description of your podcast, like it needs to be SEO optimized, because the podcast listing platforms, like they pick up the description as well. So all of that needs to be aligned. But like you don't particularly need to put your name on the podcast.
The title. Right? Okay, got it. Okay.
What I'm saying is that don't hide away from it. Like you're the face of it. Right now, all of the podcasts out there, they're also vidcasts. Like, so it also engages on video, because what's the number one form of content right now is short form videos. Totally. So obviously you need to repurpose that into social clips. So your face is always going to be there. That's what I was saying.
Okay, that's really good. That's good insight, and that is helpful. And by the way, speaking with Tomas, and I'm going to spell his last name. It's Fonseca. and he is with icons of realestate.com, podcast production, and helping you to scale with podcasting. Okay, great. Let's keep going into this. Okay. So first thing we talked about it, know where you're going, right? Strategy. Okay. Yeah. We want to do it for business, right? And you can do the name or not the name, but just, the SEO optimize. So what is maybe step number 2 or secret number 2 to be able to scale with podcasting?
It's getting started. So getting started is something that people do find a lot of interest on, and they may say, "Oh, I don't have a microphone as fancy as Brad's. Oh, I don't have Tomas headphones, or oh, I don't have a MacBook Pro." It's getting started with nothing is better than waiting 5 years to start with everything, and it's I alone I actually like to see the growth of like, oh, getting a better mic here, getting a better video there, a better background there. But just getting started and put your feet in the sand is already a bigger step than most people do. Okay, and yeah, right. That's kind of to get started. You need to get started, right? That's the
yeah. By the way, a little tip for that. When I got started with mine, I did like kind of like DIY, do it myself, like YouTube channel kind of, and it gets, you lose momentum. Like I end up just hiring a coach. It's like a 30-day, like, in 30 days, you will launch your podcast. We will take you step by step by step. It's like a fitness coach. Like if I wanted to start a New Year's resolution and get in shape in 30 days, like just, hire that. And I think it was a couple $1,000, but it got it. And it helped me so many ways to launch it properly and more effectively and more awareness and all this cool stuff. We launched top 55 in the country on Apple and, through some gamification of it and all this kind of stuff, but still also get more people to look at it. So you can hire somebody and literally, like, I think we spent an hour a day and, maybe 2 max on some days, and we launched, right? And it was way more successful. So I think that's so true, right? And if you feel like you're losing the momentum on that, just hire the coach. Like there's podcast, launch coaches that will help you do it in 30 days, and then you're off and running. And so great. Any other thoughts on that before we go to tip number 3?
Yeah. So that's exactly what we do, right? I just wanted to leave that in the open because that's exactly what we do. We help people launch the podcasts, and you either have, there's the 3 factors that you have in life is like time, money, and intention, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you have the money and don't have the time, like that's where outsourcing comes in. If you have the time but you don't have the money, well, how are you gonna outsource that? Like you got to do it yourself. But we only work with successful people that most of the time they have the intention, they have the money, but they don't have the time, right? So we make sure that we produce their podcast in the least resistance way possible for them.
Perfect. Okay, so what's tip number 3 or secret number 3?
So for the number 3, I would take it back to how people see what is the actual benefit of podcasting, and I would open maybe a little people's minds to it, because there is what I like to call, the above the line and the below the line, right? So the above the line is everything that has to do with content, everything that we're doing right now, right? All the social promotion that is going to be created, newsletters, repurposed content. You can position yourself top of mind with the constant episodes going out. And that alone is great. It's a good part of your social media plan. What I like to have people's attention is on the below the line, which is in the building of relationships. So what we teach people to do is actually how to use podcasts to create high value relationships that translate into business, right? For some people, it may be in the fact that, okay, I'm growing a referral network, right? So they use the podcast episode itself. The guest is a potential referral partner, so they bring in so they can start the relationship in that way. It's actually how we grow our own business. The guests there that come to the Icons of Real Estate podcast, and We are a high production podcast. We release one episode every single weekday. So that's over 250 episodes a year. We have this because we're constantly talking with people, constantly recording episodes, putting ourselves out there, opening doors, building bridges, whatever metaphor you want to use. Because nowadays, people's attention span is less than a clownfish. I actually saw that fact a while ago. It's like, how crazy is that? Cold calling is not enough anymore. Like LinkedIn outreaching is not enough anymore. Cold emailing is not enough anymore. You need to be able to provide value. You provide value, provide value, provide value, and then you ask. So that's what we've been doing for our business, and that's what we're teaching other people to do. So even with real estate agents, we already got plenty of them. They were building a referral network. They got referrals even before the podcast was released. So even before the podcast was out there, even there was nothing above the line. It was everything underground. Our client already had a referral and was already signing a deal. Like, and that's what people kind of don't know about podcasting, is how we can be used to create these high value relationships.
I love it. It makes sense. So develop deep relationships, add value, and make it an inbound effort versus an outbound, traditional cold calling. Makes sense. What is the next secret to scaling your business with the podcast?
So for the next one, so many secrets. If I share all my secrets, we're going to go out of business. No, the next one is really don't stop believing in the project. It is, Alex Hermosi says, if you don't do anything for more than 100 days, you don't know if it works or if not. Of course, 100 days for the podcast is still very short to say, right? Podcasting is something that can bring you, short-term results, medium-term, and long-term. All right, but everything will be worth it if you stay aligned to the plan. Okay, so by staying aligned to the plan is not just keeping your goal in mind and tracking every single little KPI for that. Is also making sure that you're keeping up with the trends, that you're using the best technology to do that your production is more efficiency, or you're using the best company, not to mention Icons of Real Estate again, No, I'm kidding. But it's really about not just once you're in the race, you got to keep yourself in the race, right? It's more about that.
Okay, yeah. So the tortoise versus the hare, right? Just consistency compounds, and 100 plus days, or 1 year, 2 years, like just keep going. I've definitely seen the power of compounding effect of the podcast and video cast, right? It's a better way to say it. By the way, we had video from day one. Like, it was a no brainer. Like, I don't know. To me, it still boggles my mind. Like, maybe there's 1% of the people that are still doing without video. I'm just like, oh, okay. I don't understand why you would not do both at the same time. You could always release it later, but that's, so make sure my encouragement, always do video, even if it's awkward and you're not quite sure. Like, just do it. It's just it's worth it. Okay, that makes sense. That's a great thing. What would you say is the piece that people are missing when back to kind of the business piece? Because I have found that, because I think a lot of the old school way of, I grew up at Marcus and Millichap, cold calling, you meet someone for coffee or lunch and you drive an hour or two and you sit down with them and you have a conversation, right? And it's one-on-one, it's personal, it's intimate, but it's radically inefficient, right? Especially if you're fighting traffic and it's just like, this is just tough. Now it's like, I could be on, today I think I'm recording 4 or 5 podcasts. I do it all on Mondays. That's another tip that I've really encouraged everyone to, if they're starting a podcast, like batch a day. Like, don't make it where it's like, sporadic all over the place. Get in a flow state. So talk about the power of flow state and batching and doing it all. Like, what have you found the best days for people to have guests on their show for the most show up and the best efficiency? Any kind of, rhythm for that you can share with us?
Yeah. So just on that, on the if you're running then a podcast based on interviews, you're gonna have to deal with I would say it is the biggest challenge that we face. That is the show up rate, right? We position our podcast in a certain way that where we really talk with a lot of people, and it comes to the show to the fact that people then they don't show up. We have developed a lot of systems and automations and improvements here and there that is improving that conversion, that show up rate. But it's all about how do you position yourself. Brad, if Joe Rogan invites you to a podcast and he says, "Hey, Brad, it's at 4 a.m. In Atlanta, Georgia, and you need to be there at 4 a.m. next week." Like you're probably going, you know. Like I would probably go. Otherwise, with another maybe a podcast that hasn't been released yet, they don't even have authority. It's very easy to run away from that. So we use like email automations. We call them the day before. We send them indoctrination emails. So we have automations for all of our clients. And if you're not going through this effort, like you're gonna get stood on Zoom. And for me, getting stood up on Zoom or Riverside is worse than getting stood up in real life. Because at least real life, I can, try to pretend that I'm still in a movie and something will happen. No, no, no. It's just like you're alone in your office. You got stood up. You're looking like a fool, and nobody can see it but you. For me, that's the worst. I prefer to face that actually embarrassment in a public space.
Okay.
Being stood up in a public space than just being on myself like nobody saw this
Okay, I get it.
crazy.
We get it. So the key is indoctrination emails or just reminder emails, right? But also get a chance to get in front of them. Make it more convenient, higher likelihood of them. So, but is there like I remember like cold calling days? It was you cold call people between 10 a.m. and like noon, and then like maybe like 5 to 7 p.m. was kind of like there were certain like windows. You don't call them too early. You don't want to wake them up. Made those mistakes. You don't want to call on a Sunday when people are. So like, is there certain like okay if you're starting a podcast, you're like this is kind of the template. Like for example, I record everything on Mondays, and I record typically 3 to 5 episodes back to back to back basically, and that's all I do on Mondays. Like I don't do all my meetings. I don't do any like deep work. Like I'm just in a flow state of podcasting, right? And so people are like, how do you do so many? It's like, well, we do them all back to back to back basically, and then we have a lot in the bank, right? So talk about the banking of podcast and how they can take the pressure off of you to like feel like this is going to be something that's just going to consume you every week, all week.
Yeah, yeah. So just to touch on those 2 points, then the first one is on putting everything together or in different days. It depends on 2 things, Brad. It depends on yourself and how do you want to manage your calendar, and it depends on the type of guests that you have on, right? For example, if all the guests have a W-2 job, well, you can't do any episodes from 9 to 5. All of the episodes need to be outside the working schedule. If, for example, we do a lot of podcasts with real estate agents, they can be jumping from here to there at any time. So sometimes even 3 p.m. podcast, 11 a.m. podcast, it can happen. So it does depend on the type of guest that you have, and you should adjust accordingly. And then it also depends on you. Like there might be some people that they don't have the whole afternoon to focus on something, but they do have 1 hour here, 1 hour there, 1 hour there. So actually with different clients, we do different practices. Sometimes it's Wednesday afternoon. Sometimes it's Tuesday 2 hours, Thursday 2 hours, or sometimes it's all open. So I think it really depends on you, and then look at the guests as well. Then on the banking of podcast, Brad, I wouldn't be able to survive if I didn't have podcasts in the bank. You'll be such a big amount of stress that I need to commit myself. I need to release something Tuesday, and I don't have nothing. Like you can't reach that situation. You always have to have at least 1 month is kind of already in the dangerous part. Like we have for our own flagship podcast, we have actually months and months of content if we want. Okay, for our clients, we try to keep between 1 month and 2 months, and it's just gonna help you be more tranquil with the content that you're creating because you're not gonna be rushed into anything, and at the same time, well, you're gonna be a little bit more stress free that nothing's gonna
Yep.
cut you.
Got it. Yeah, exactly. So the key is to bank it, right? And before you even launch the podcast, you've got a month or two in advance of
Yeah,
releasing at least
exactly.
one per week. And then you could always release two in the future. Okay, all right. So what question haven't I asked you so far that you want to make sure we touch on for the guest, and even talk about your services A to Z, like everything you guys provide?
Yeah, it would be maybe the last secret, or I should have said this when you asked for one secret, is that the riches are in the niches, and we were talking about competition. I forgot to mention this, but it's people like, oh yeah, Joe Rogan podcast. Joe Rogan podcast is there's not really like a very big niche there. It's kind of like a worldwide. Everyone listens everywhere from all different ages, right? What we try to say is like you grab, for example, Brett, like in terms of tax related podcasts, like you might be one of the top 10 tax related podcasts in the country, right? If not the top 5 or whatever, right? So what we show them is either you have a very specific niche or a very specific location. For example, you are, a real estate agent in the city of Denver. You say, oh yeah, but there's so many podcasts out there. Yeah, but how many real estate podcasts are there in Denver? Maybe there are only 3 or 4. Actually, there are at least 2 of them that are ours. But there's at least 3 or 4. So instead of you thinking that you need to fight all of the other podcasts, you just need to be the best of 4. Like that's not that hard. So by hyper focusing on a specific location and the specific, if you join the location and the niche, then you can say that I have the number 1 tax solutions podcast in Florida, and you can say that, and it might not mean too much in terms of like views or something like that, but for the people that you're talking to, your
Yeah.
leads, your clients, it means a lot.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then again, would you recommend, like, if someone were starting a real estate podcast in Denver, they would say Denver Real Estate Podcast, or again, does it matter as long as you call it whatever you want, but your SEO is and you're talking about Denver real estate, like it'll all take care of itself. Is that what you're saying, Tomas?
Yeah, you need to put in the description. If you don't want to put real
Yeah.
estate in the name, you need to put in the description. We do
Got it.
suggest that you're not going to call it shenanigans or whatever
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Of course, you can have some nice idea and creative, and you shouldn't kill your creativity. But at the same time, you need to be smart because you wanna reach those people that are searching for real estate information in your market.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, great. Okay, cool. All right. All right. Now let's talk about your services. So A to Z, like what do you guys provide?
Awesome. So Icons of Real Estate, you can get to us by going to iconsofrealestate.com. We're the number 1 real estate podcast network, and we do podcast production. We take care of everything except being yourself. So you'd have to do that for us. You'd have to host the podcast and do the interviews and have to be the pretty face. Everything else we cover. We do coaching. We take care of guest booking. We do audio and video editing. We take care of social media promotion, SEO and blog articles. We even take care of podcast sponsorship opportunities. And yeah, the only requirement that we ask is you need to want to grow your business. If you don't want to grow your business, you're not going to do a podcast with us because we only do podcasts to put money in your pocket. It's not going to be an hobby. It's going to be something that is going to revolutionize your business. So that's us. That's us, Brett.
That's awesome. That's great. And you ready for the lightning round?
Yes.
All right.
I'm aware of this right now.
Good. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure you tell yourself to do?
Don't finish your college degree and start working now.
Okay. Question number 2. What's the number one book you recommend or gifted the most in the past year?
In the past year, that would have to be Sapiens by I never know.
That's okay. There's no other book that's called that, so you're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Question number 3, number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Only focus on the things that you can control. And that's
excellent.
Julius Caesar.
Okay. Next question. Number one way you're using ChatGPT.
Oh, ChatGPT. I always say hi first and thank you last. And sorry, what was the question again?
What's the number one way you're using ChatGPT?
Oh, is to it's so varied. I use it for everything, Brett. I don't have one specific
What's
thing.
the number one way you used it last week? Last week was like the number one way you used it was what?
I used it to draft the email reply. And I
Cool.
just put the email there and that's it.
Yep, simple, right? I love it. That's good. That's good. Yeah, you're thinking of Terminator 2, right? It's like you might as well say, hello, please, and thank you, right? Just in case. They're like, that Tomas guy was always very polite with us.
Yeah, they'll remember me. They'll remember me.
Don't forget the Terminator movies. All right, next question. How do you stay centered in your values? So after everything you've built, all the success you've had, what's kind of the way that you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach even higher heights?
Yeah, so I think even for the business and my personal self, it's very important to do yearly goals that I break down into quarters. So I do that not just for my business, but for myself. And then I look at them every single week. So I'm not diverting too much apart. Of course, everyone has the right to rest. Everyone has the right to lose control every now and then. But if you stick to the plan, you'll stay centered and you'll keep going. So that's how I keep myself going.
Tomas, it's been more than a pleasure to get to know you a bit here on the podcast. I want to thank you for sharing your story. I want to thank you for helping others to build a brand and and scale their businesses with podcasting. It's an important role in the world forever now moving forward. And thank you so much. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, so they can go to iconsofrealestate.com if they want to surf on our website. If they don't have a surfboard, they can get to me on tomas@iconsofrealestate.com. I do answer all my emails. I'm one of those rare breeds. So please email me.
Awesome. Tomas, thank you so much. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and both YouTube channels. If you haven't subscribed to those, please do. We have amazing guests like Tomas on all the time. We have about, 200, 300 episodes on Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and then Build It to Billions. We have amazing guests on as well. So make sure you subscribe. And of course, if you have any needs or desires to start a podcast, why not reach out to Tomas and get that going? It's changed my world, my life. I'm so grateful for it. And I think you would be too if you get an opportunity to get started. And of course, if you have a massive big exit coming up and you have a huge capital gains tax problem, guess what? We have a solution to that. In fact, we started a company called Capital Gains Tax Solutions for any sale of Bitcoin, businesses, real estate. No longer need to use the old 1031 exchange. You can use the deferred sales trust is what we specialize in, and it's amazing. So if you want to learn more, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. I'm Brett Swartz. Appreciate everyone listening, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye now.